Welcome everybody. This is What's Up For You, and it's November 12th, 2024. So before we get started with questions, if all went well, you guys submitted questions to Sharon ahead of time with your donations, and she'll read each one of those questions today. And I'll be able to provide as much feedback as I can. So hopefully that'll be helpful to everybody. Like I was saying before the call started, we're still in the process of reorganizing or revamping this call, just because we do get a lot of requests from people in other parts of the world that would like to be able to ask questions. So anyway, let me just check in very quickly with the energy today before we get started with your questions, and then we will kind of go from there. So give me just a minute. Oh, yeah. So this is, between now and the end of the year, it's kind of just bumpy energy is what I want to say. It's the energy kind of moves in all kinds of different ways. And, I know I say this a million times a day to all kinds of different people, but really be easy on yourselves. It's like everywhere where you think that you're not getting it right, or not doing it fast enough, or not knowing where to go, or those kinds of maybe insecurities that you're pointing right back at yourself, I will guarantee that they're not personal. It's that energy might be coming up in you, but to the degree that you can just allow yourself to be loving and kind towards yourself, have a little bit of empathy for you in the process, I think you'll move through this next couple months, towards the end of this year, just with a lot more ease and grace. The energy's bumpy. It's not necessarily personal, but man, can it feel personal at certain times. So anyway, so just letting you know that, yeah, let's start with that. So Sharon, what have you got for me today?
All right, this first question is, my nonverbal son, Amari, is 15 years old and has been going through a lot this past year. We are dealing with self-harm and very high-pitched screaming that can last for hours. It seems he is experiencing some extreme overload. What is going on and how can we help him?
This sounds fairly basic, but we're going to start here. Again, when there's no form of communication, when there's no form of, I'll say, fluid communication, to be able to get those messages across, that frustration and irritation is going to build up. What he's saying is, like, sometimes, like, he hears himself in his own head, and it's like he's hearing himself in his own head. He's having conversations with himself all day, every day, about all kinds of things. It's just that it all stays locked up in his head. And so, if you have that going on for, year after year, at some point, there is a level of frustration, and some of that high screech is partly that. So how do we remedy some of that? One, definitely looking into some form of communication for him, facilitated communication, spell to communicate, whatever options might be available to you. But the other thing too is really letting him know that you understand just how frustrating it could be. If any of us put ourselves in the same situation, I know, even, just living by myself and, talking to myself most of the day instead of talking to other people, it's like that energy in your head can get very loud, and he's trying to release the energy that's just going on in his head. So some form of communication would be great. And also just from the get-go, just letting him know, it's like, I really understand how frustrating this must be, and really would like to support that communication. The other thing I will say is, it's, I know that we can know that, especially with the nonverbal population, I know that we can know that they're in there, that they're completely present, and they're intelligent, and have thoughts and feelings and experiences and likes and dislikes all of their own. And I also think that really does entail us helping them find some way to connect and communicate all of that. Sometimes we might think that they have all of that internally, but that they just don't know how to communicate, and so they're kind of locked in that place. No, they actually do know, and he um, would very much like that form of communication. Um, so yeah, that's what I'm noticing. So I hope that's helpful.
I have a question about my 4-year-old son, Ethan. Over the past month, he has developed a very specific repetitive behavior involving our garage door. He loves opening and closing it, using the pin code on the outside panel to start, and then alternating between the inside button and outside panel to continue this routine. He can do this literally 100 times a day to the point that outside panels begin to malfunction. This activity has become part of his play as well. He often pretends to open the door and close using his toy set, even mimicking the button pressing the motion. And often he waits for me to say garage open light, garage goes blink, blink, blink before repeating it all again. He even initiates process while lying in bed as he falls asleep. Let's see. I'm trying to understand what this behavior could mean. What might he be trying to communicate, and what am I missing? Any insights would be greatly appreciated.
Let's see here. Hmm. Part of it is not just the opening and the closing. Part of it is actually the vibration of the door going open and closed. That kind of bit of a rumble with a garage door that's moving. That vibration can be very reorienting for him. It can be very I don't know whether it's, hold on a second, let me ask a few more questions. It's like he keeps saying the rumble of it, it feels good in his body, it feels relaxing to his body, it feels, it's almost like this low hum, that is, he says, is very regulating to him. And he's attempting to do absolutely everything he can to regulate. He understands that for us listening to it, or for you listening to it, and it's going up and down and up and down, and it's kind of almost OCD like. He's talking about like really trying to find more than open. I was kind of expecting it to be something about opening and closing other worlds, other realities, and that kind of thing. And there might be an aspect of that to it, but it's really not about that. It's really about the vibration of the door going open and closed, and how that is regulating for his body, and how he practices regulating his body when he's playing, in other ways too, to see if he can regulate it just based on the memory of the rumble of that up and down. And let's see, hold on a second. Manda di Kyoko Kyomen Jinjoesam. I would, again, I would say verbally to him, it's like, because I can only imagine how frustrating it is for your garage door to be going open and closed all day, every day. I mean, that's a lot to deal with. But I would literally say to him, I would say, wow, I'm so proud of you for trying to find something that would help to regulate your body. I'm learning more that it's actually sound and vibration that help you regulate in your body. And it's really not so much about, maybe what we thought it was about. And I wonder what other sounds and vibrations would be helpful to you. And I would start the it's kind of low and rumble. So things that make that sound, or even frequencies, lower frequencies. You could even look on YouTube and look at something that is more for the root, or, oh, that's what he's doing, more for the root or the sacral. It's like that low rumble, almost like a drum or a hum, is a vibrational tone that helps him regulate in his body. And so it's almost like, okay, if I have to do this all day, every day, I'll do that just so I can stay a little bit more present or regulated in the body, is what he's showing me. So, yeah, I hope that's helpful.
I'm wondering how we can best communicate with a 5-year-old grandson. I have watched your videos about text board and I am unsure how to teach him to use it. How could he like, or how would he like to communicate with us so we can understand him better?
Hmm. Well, he's very clear about this. First, there really is something about grandchildren and grandparents, and I'm not just saying that because I am one, but there really is something about a grandparent's connection to their child or to their grandchild that opens communication very naturally and organically. The reason that that's the case is, we all know that, very often we can say that being a grandparent is kind of the best job on the planet, right? Because we've all been parents and we all know how challenging those moments are, when you're the one that's responsible for, the day in, day out of caring for a child, and especially when you're caring for a child who has, kind of unique needs. So by virtue of the fact that you are the grandparent and that you're kind of one step removed from that in and of itself, your grandson is very clear. It's like there's already connection, communication, kind of co-creation going on between the two of you. I can see that very clearly. Um, as far as using a board or some kind of spell to communicate, you know, uh, experience with him, that really does take some training, because there's so much more to it than just, pointing to letters or even pointing to pictures. Um, he's very communicative with his face. He's very communicative with his body. You can really start asking him all kinds of questions and ask him to tell you with his face or with his body. Show me with your eyes. Do you like this idea or do you don't like this idea? Show me with your body. Is this something that you want to go do, or this is something you don't want to do? I mean, those subtle physical movements, between the two of you, it's it's like a it's like a communion, it's like you're communing with him. And yes, he would definitely like most of the kids that I interact with would like some form of communication, whether that's telepathic communication or spelling or something along those lines. But in this case, and with you, just start telling him how you're picking up his communication. So, oh, I notice when I suggest that we're going to have this for lunch or we're going to go to this place, that you either lean in and get real excited, or you back up and run away, or I would verbally articulate to him how you are already noticing that communication going on. It'll be good for you and it'll be good for him as well. But he's with you. He's not as interested in the more structural parts of communication. He wants communion with you, is I guess the best way I can say it. So, yeah, I hope that helps.
Your monthly What's Up For You sessions have guided me both personally and professionally. I work with children 2 and 5 years old and have special needs. Many of them have autism. I am a highly sensitive person, and for the past 6 months, I have been experiencing intense tinnitus. I've tried some alternative treatments, sound therapy, herbs, meditation, but the tinnitus continues to persist. I welcome any value insights that you can share.
Yeah, me too. Matter of fact, mine are ringing right now. And so a couple things that I think might be helpful. If you're not already tuned in to the Schumann resonance, and what the Schumann resonance is doing on any given day, you might look into that. I have an app on my phone. Let me see what the name of it. It's just Schumann resonance. It literally looks like, let's see, it looks like this. It brings up bands of energy like this, and it'll give you a power number. Right now, the power is 39. I don't know if you guys can see that, but if you drop me an email, I can send you the the app. But I would look at that, because that helped me not feel so crazy about the fact that my ears would get louder and louder and louder in the ringing. The other thing is too, is when you're highly energetically sensitive, you're literally, that ringing, yes, it's going on in your own body. You're picking it up in your own body, but it's not related to your body. It's related to the vibrational pitch that is climbing and climbing and climbing on the planet. And you're just in tune with it, is the best way I can say it. The other thing I will say is it's also really helpful when you have tinnitus in this regard, to kind of just, especially if it gets really high pitched, especially if it's in both ears, just close your eyes for a second, go internal, and just like, instead of trying to get rid of it, like, it's almost like merge with it, like go into it, listen to it. It's going to have information for you. And as soon as you kind of use it to pick up that information field, it, I'd like to say that it's not going to be as persistent, but in this energetic climate, it probably is. I haven't figured out what to do with it either, personally. It's just there. What helps me, however, is to know that it's related to this Schumann resonance. It's related to the heartbeat of the planet. As that vibration increases, then so will the tinnitus. Yeah, it'll get really high pitched. Yeah. Let me see if there's anything else I can share. Yeah, there's definitely, for you, go in. Like, I know we want to stop things that feel like they shouldn't be there, but go into it, because it's almost like I'm here, like codes and maybe even instructions, and like you might go into it and then all of a sudden kind of go, oh, I feel like I need to go sit outside for a little bit, or I feel like I need some sunshine on my face, or, it's that's information that's coming from that field. Yeah. So that's that. Yeah.
All right. How can I support my son Jonah emotionally? He has either very high or very low, or he is either very high or very low and often anxious. Also wondering how I can support his spiritual development or anything that he needs to know, me to know right now. Thank you.
You know, I'm a I'm a huge, you guys have heard me say that so many times. It's a little nauseating at this point, but The Presence Process by Michael Brown, some inner work yourself is always helpful. And here's why. Our kids, especially kids who are highly energetically sensitive, they are picking up vibration all the time. They do not learn by what we say. They do not learn by what we do. Even they learn by how we vibrate. Used to be easier when kids, it wasn't what we said, but what we did. And then we could do what we needed to do and demonstrate things that help to reduce anxiety or those kinds of things. But it's really how we vibrate. So, and we live in a world right now, you know, whether it's post-election or whether it's all kinds of energetic fields that are opening up right now, whether it's astrological configurations or 11/11 yesterday. I mean, there's so much going on energetically that we kind of can't keep our finger on all of that in any way, shape, or form. But what we can do is we can be very present to what's going on inside of us on any given moment. And when our kids are anxious, we usually are too, as parents. I mean, how do you not get anxious when your kids are anxious, right? But we can't control their anxiety, but we can definitely breathe through ours. We can definitely be present to what's showing up for us. The wonderful thing about that and energetically sensitive kids, as soon as we calm our own nervous systems, as soon as we go inward and relax ourselves, the kids pick it up vibrationally like that. That's the amazing thing about having kids that are as energetically sensitive as the kids that you have work with or are. So yeah, as far as, and this is a hard one to hear. This is such a hard one to hear. And I'm not picking on you by any stretch. This isn't personal to you. This is, we can't help somebody else spiritually evolve. It's like we can spiritually evolve. We can put out that vibration and then they can choose it. But we really, I mean, not even for our own children. Yeah. That said, it's much more likely that our children will be interested in those kinds of things. And when they see not just us practicing it, but them seeing us have peace within ourselves because of it. When they see that, they're kind of going, whatever she's doing, I want to do that. Whatever that is, that's what I want to feel in my body too. So we always are going to lead by example. And for energetically sensitive kids, it's by vibrational example. And then as far as what Noah might want to tell you or share with you, yeah, it's, it's really simple. And I think that this is a good one for all parents to hear. It's like, we're all doing better as far as our kids are concerned, than we might think. It's like we're all, you know, it's challenging. There's no way around it. I mean, to be a parent is challenging, but even more so, to be a parent of a child who functions completely different than other children function it's challenging. And I mean, everybody is doing the absolute best job that they possibly can. And Noah is just, Noah literally puts his hand on his chest and he's like, like, it's almost like he's trying to help me breathe through this, help you breathe through this, help us all kind of just give ourselves a little bit of credit for the fact that that we might be better at this than we might think we are. Yeah. Yeah. You guys are writing the book, quite frankly, the book that hasn't been written, that nobody gets when you have a kid that shows up differently, right? You guys are in the process of writing it with every moment that you share with the kids. So, yeah, I hope that's helpful.
I use food for connection and I find it doesn't always serve me, but I feel I don't have control of it and would like to change that. I find it overwhelming not to lean into food and let go of the identity of having an issue with food and even being in the body. Do you have any insights that could help me, please? Thank you.
Yeah, it's not the food at all. It's the food is the coping mechanism, which you already know. But the coping mechanism for what? And so this is where I really like Michael Brown in the presence process, because even in that process, he says, don't even do the process, but don't bother trying to change any of your bad habits, you might say, or, things that we perceive as negative habits. Don't try to change those prior to actually really getting to the underlying cause of that energy. It's like, there's one way or another, I think most people on this planet have some form of, you might say, addiction or some form of, hold on a second, I want to find the right, right words. Some strategy that has been supportive to help us move through life, right? And so a strategy can be a very wonderful thing. We don't have to make that strategy wrong or bad. If that strategy outwears its welcome, then it might behoove us to look a little deeper and see what that strategy is attempting to support. Like, what is the actual feeling that strategy is attempting to support? And I've watched it myself going through the presence process where, it's, I'll go through periods of time where I'll eat very clean, and then all of a sudden it's like I want to be at Starbucks every other day, or I want to, I've eaten green for quite some time, and then all of a sudden it's like I need a hamburger and I need it yesterday, kind of thing. So it's not a matter of, what's right or wrong or what's good or bad. It's really a matter of what is that energetic. What's the feeling? What's the feeling that really wants to be expressed, wants to be felt, but doesn't feel safe enough to be felt? And so it's like, okay, I'll soothe with food instead. And again, let's not make soothing with food bad, right? Let's not make anything bad. It's just a strategy. Yeah. And sometimes just releasing ourselves from you did this, you're bad. That in and of itself can create a little bit more of a release of that strategy. Yeah. It's not even what we're doing, it's what we make it mean. Yeah. Yeah. Next time you kind of go for, next time you kind of feel that way, whether you're making yourself wrong for it or you're having shame or guilt for having something, using something as a strategy, give yourself just a minute before you do anything about it, and just breathe, like literally inhale, exhale. Keep the breathe cyclical. Just keep breathing. And as you breathe like that, inhale, exhale, what you're going to notice is usually that emotion that you are trying to support, that emotion will come right to the surface. And you might all of a sudden get irritated, you might get a little sad. It's usually fear or anger or grief. Those are the main ones. A bird just like literally flew right on. A woodpecker just came and sat right on the window. So any one of those is probably what you're going to be feeling, but just breathe right through it until it feels like it dissipates, and then go do whatever feels right to do after that. But it'll help to melt some of that energy. Yeah. All right.
This question is Dylan, 5 years old, spectrum diagnosed, being considered, being identified as a selective mute. Last year in preschool, she had intermittent times of not speaking to others, whispering one-word answers. At times, she would speak full sentences, especially when we would play with dolls in their dollhouse, and she could get great imaginative interactive play with me. This year, she isn't doing much verbal interaction at all. She seems almost fully capable of receptive understanding, ability to follow through with instructions, and doing very well with her large motor and fine skills, balance, coordination, etc. Question: is she an autistic or something else going on? It doesn't seem typical of a diagnosis to me. And what is the reasoning behind her choosing to not verbally speak, physically versus energetically? And does she want to be able to speak? Is there anything we can do to help her to do that, or prefer another method of communication?
First, she is able to speak. It does not look to me like this is what you would consider a typical autism diagnosis. The very first thing that she said, when she understands absolutely everything, not missing a beat. The other side of it, however, is she doesn't feel like she has, let me say it, with her peers, she doesn't feel like she has people to talk to, or that, how do I say this? That it hold on a sec, okay, so she's someone who picks up vibration very easily. She knows where, before anybody says anything, she picks up that vibrational information. When she feels comfortable with the vibration of someone else, she could chat away, really. I mean, she could have quite a bit of conversation. And I think that she probably will, as she gets a little bit older. I think that that will come a little bit more naturally to her. But right now, it's almost like, I don't really feel like, she says it kind of matter of fact, like, I don't really feel like having conversations. with these people around me because of not because of the conversation itself, but the vibration is not what she wants to converse about, not what she's actually interested in. She's very like, she just keeps showing me like her heart space. She's very deep. I mean, it's like, this is just a deep kid. I mean, yeah, but I would not say that this is an autism diagnosis. I would say, and how do we find her? How do we find her people that she does want to verbally communicate with? You know, it's vibrational for her for sure. Let me see something else here. She goes like this. It's like, talk to me about what matters. Talk to me about how you really feel. Talk to me about um um it's like there's a some song, who is he? Andy Grammer. Um there's some words to a song that he sings, and it says, you know, tell me all about you, but don't leave the hard parts out. You know, don't leave the challenging parts out. It's like she wants to feel the depth of somebody. And when she feels the depth of somebody, she actually feels more comfortable. And so that's somebody she wants to interact with. Most of her peers, like at school or maybe her educators or whatever, you know, it's like they're there to do, I'm not blaming or shaming them. They're there to do a job. They have other things on their minds. It's just that she's deeper than that. Yep. And so she's looking for that vibrational resonance. Like, just don't leave the hard stuff out. It's like, I want to hear about your whole life, but just don't make it fluffy. You know, she wants to hear all of it. So yeah. All right.
All right. My question is, why do some kids, including my child, eat inedible items like plants and paper and some dangerous items?
Mhm. This will sound so weird, but sometimes depending on where they're from energetically, where their souls are actually from, they need things that they need metals, minerals, um, vibrations that um, support are an attempt to support their bodies being here. I know it doesn't make very much sense, but if you think about it from the vantage point of none of us are simply human, we've all had all kinds of other incarnations in other places and other spaces. And this response that I'm giving you is from a spiritual or higher dimensional perspective. You know, it's like, I know Pica and all the other things like in the physical world and what they call that. But if you're looking at it from its causal point, then we have to go out beyond the physical body or what the physical body is supposed to need. And we have to go to what the galactic body or the energetics of that galactic body need in order to be here or are supported by being here. And again, sometimes when we just say to a child, it's like, you know, I don't know why you need that, but I know there's a reason for it. I know that you need it for a reason. Instead of, and I get it. I mean, it's like I just had a email from a mom this morning that her son just ate jewelry, her daughter's jewelry, like necklaces and things like that, were just like literally taking them down into his stomach. And so I understand on the physical human level how absolutely scary that is. You end up in emergency rooms pumping stomachs, and trying to get this stuff out. It's not pretty. That said, very often when we actually go to the energetic cause or reason for that, and even if we acknowledge that there is a cause or a reason that's outside of what is typically human, sometimes the kids like, oh, she gets me. She understands me. I don't have to bring that attention. And also look at, sometimes kids who come from other places and other spaces, they need iron. They need different kinds of different kind of, I'm going to say like hold on a second. Minerals and substances that they might find like in the dirt or in particular items. Like you notice that kids who swallow things, they will swallow certain kinds of things. It used to, one of my other clients, it was keys for, a while. It was like, and again, it's like, it's the metal in the, yeah, it's the metal in it. So we want to first, like, just let's say, okay, I know you're doing this for a reason. I know that you are not just, this isn't just by happenstance that it happens to be these things. Yeah. And that alone can kind of create a little bit of a pause, or at least it has in the clients that I've worked with so far. And then, does this child need more iron? Does this child need minerals that they are just absent of, that would actually help them feel more present here? So yeah, hope that helps.
My son is 8, non-speaking, and just started spelling. He has many challenges with daily normal tasks. He is homeschooled to help with the sensory overwhelm. Have you got any ideas on how I can help him integrate? I just read your book and have been working on myself and trying to balance my needs.
Good. That's going to help integrate. I mean, you being aware of what your needs are and being present to those are going to help in a lot of different ways, because again, it's like we keep trying to create an invitation for these kids to be more present here, to offer more of who they are in this world. And yet very often the invitation that we're creating for them is one of, I mean, I think all of us can think of reasons why this can be a challenging place. It's like, it's like where we miss seeing the beauty, or we miss seeing the subtleties, the simple things that are really remarkable about living on this planet. It's like the more we're tuned into those kinds of things, the greater the invitation is that we're actually creating for the kids. So let me look at him a bit. Well, sorry if this is a sidetrack, but he's been with you before. It's almost like, I don't know, he feels like, yeah, I mean, he immediately, I was like going, okay, so, what can we do to support you? Yeah, just support you feeling more comfortable here, support you being more comfortable in your body, or sharing more of, the brilliance and the beauty that you are as a soul. And he literally like jumped over that question. He goes, tell her I've been with her before. Tell her I've been here before. And not so much, well, let me see. I'm just going to say it this way. I don't know what I'm even saying other than what he's saying, but he said he almost was here before. I don't know if that means that you might have, sometimes when I see that, people might have had a miscarriage, or people might have, um, lost a pregnancy or whatever somewhere along the line. But he's like, I've been with her before. Um, and and he says that I almost got here before, and it just wasn't quite time to be here. Sorry, he's just jumping over your question, and I'll go back to it. But I think that this has something to do with your question and really helping him integrate um, whatever you might have felt or thought or experienced in regard to when he was here before, releasing of any shame, blame, guilt, releasing of any wrongness or any energy around that whatsoever. He says that that's a huge invitation for him to be more fully here now. He loves that you're um, taking care of you. He loves that you're um, uh, even contemplating what your needs are. And he says that's part of you really acknowledging that, again, it's back to this, that we always do the best with what we have in any given moment, and he just keeps going, just acknowledge that, acknowledge that. That in and of itself, whatever this is we're talking about, that is a huge invitation for him well, I'll say it this way, for both of you to show up much more fully, um, in a way that's enjoyable in this world, in this reality. Yeah, free of guilt, whatever that means to you, I don't know, but he's just smiling from ear to ear. He's just like, ooh, he's like almost excited, happy, right? In how he's sharing this. So, yeah. All right.
What is needed and how can we support Chloe getting to sleep at night? She's having a lot of negative effects from this.
Whew, it's like, it's just like, choo. Um, she, she's on high alert, bless her heart. It's like, again, very tuned into the energetics. You guys, this might also be that Schumann resonance thing that I was talking about earlier in the call might be of support here as well. She really feels, I mean, the minute I closed my eyes to connect with her, it's like I felt like I almost like jumped out of my body kind of thing. It's she's really, really hyper sensitive, tuned into energetic fluctuations. And sometimes when she's moving throughout the day, she doesn't notice them as much. It's almost like she can be preoccupied with other things. But when she like lays down to go to sleep, it's like now all of a sudden she's very keyed into or tuned into these higher vibrational fluctuations. And it does feel like sometimes it feels almost like they pull at her energetically. And I think there's a little bit of anxiety around like literally closing her eyes. I mean, I can just see her like laying down, like, I'm going to stay awake, I'm going to stay awake, I'm going to stay awake kind of thing. So let's, hold on a second. Okay, Chloe, where are we going? So let's start with like some real basics for her. Um, you could do like a lavender oil or a or a frankincense or something like that. Just a little bit of oil, either have her put it on the bottom, the soles of her feet, or you put it on the soles of her feet, something that's a little bit calming, right before bed, that she can either do as a ritual herself, depending on her age, or you can do with her. But it's almost what you're doing is you're drawing the energy. Your intention is to help draw her energy into the body so that she's not as tuned into every kind of fluctuation that's going on, or even have a little bit of a, like a body countdown even can be helpful for her. It's like, okay, it's like, pay attention to your feet, pay attention to your ankles, pay attention to your knees. You're just giving her focal points, and where it's appropriate, again, either she can touch that part of herself, or you can put a hand on that part of her. You're just inviting her energy, especially right before bed, to come into the body so that she's paying more attention to what's going on in her body than she's paying attention to what's going on in the other more subtle energetic fields, because she feels it, and I think sometimes it just feels like it pulls her right out. So just gently, calming, lovingly, and physical touch. I mean, she needs to know that, that she can pay attention to her body more so than she can pay attention to those subtle energies as she's going to sleep. Yeah.
A follow-up question from last month about the earmuffs and
About earmuffs.
and the passive headphones, clay plasma water. I put them in another pair than he usually wears, and he didn't want them on. As I tried to put them on or hand them to him to put on himself, he took his hands and tried to put them on me. He usually takes his off when we are together in a nice quiet room, so maybe he is used to that. I let him put them on me and sat there with them on a while we played. Thought maybe they would help me, LOL. Question is that what he was trying to say? And does he want me to put the inserts in his, does he want me to put the inserts in his own headphones?
Follow his lead, follow his lead. And I love the fact that, with a little bit of humor there, it's like, maybe this is something that I need instead of what he needs. And again, when he asks you to put them on, so we can, as human beings, who are more regulated to this world, we can start feeling a little bit self-conscious, when we're doing things that aren't kind of typical or whatever. But one of the things that I would really ask you to pay attention to is when you put those headphones on, or when he asks you to put them on, what happens to your body? What do you notice? If you really go inside in that moment, I would, when you are wearing those and you're internal, what's happening? What's happening for you? What are you noticing? And then also you might notice what happens to him, because you go into that kind of energetic, he's calling it like a format, like a space or an energetic. Yeah, it's almost like, what happens to you when you have a little bit of sound deprivation? What do you pay attention to in your body? What do you notice that you might not notice if you didn't have that sound deprivation? And as you notice that within your body, just notice what that does to his. Yeah, he'll match it. He'll match it. Yeah. I was talking to a kid last night with his mom, and um he's about 16, and we were he's just getting to this place where he's just ready to verbally communicate, and he has been back and forth. And but we had this aha moment, was like, well, what do your mom and I need to do for ourselves to create this environment where it's that much easier for you to, take this next step that you're choosing to take? And so he gave us each a little feedback. He spells and verbalizes to communicate. And so he gave us this little bit of feedback. And what was so interesting is, just like this last question, the feedback was really more about us being aware of our own internal state and what helps us create that internal state. For mom, it was more around like creativity, painting and things like that. But he was kind of pointing us to not the activity, but the state that the activity created. Like, that's where I feel like I'm myself, and that was a really amazing invitation for his communication. So yeah, kind of goes the same way here. Mhm.
All right.
Thanks, Heather.
Time for last words.
Time for last words. All right. Did we get to everybody, Sharon?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. Yeah, it's like, for those of you who are new to What's Up For You, or who have been around for a while, but might be hearing things a little bit differently each time, every time we meet, the invitation is really going to be around kind of moving much more into a vibrational world than it is, to really think about life through that lens, because that's where the kids are. They think about, it's not even really a thought like that. They're experiencing reality almost from a vibrational standpoint. And we've all been fairly conditioned out of that. We believe our thoughts are real. We believe that our emotions are, true and real, and so we very rarely spend time just like vibrationally, like, what am I putting out vibrationally? Is that fear, worry, and concern? And if it is, can we have some love, compassion, and understanding for ourselves? It's nobody's fault. That's how most human beings are conditioned. But as we evolve as a human race, we are moving much more into the realm and worlds of vibration. And if these kids aren't helping us do anything else, they're helping us tune into vibration. Yeah. And the moment we get that, the moment things start to become a little bit more fluid. Yeah. And even tuning into that in front of your kids, like your kids do something or say something and it activates something within you. If we go right into that activation and we tune into that vibration, what are we feeling? What's going on? What's that sensation? And if we're just with it for a couple breaths, that will dissipate and you'll watch your kids reorient, right? Reorient. So yeah, I hope that's helpful, but it's we're going to learn more and more about that in these sessions as we go forward, because that is the key, as far as I can tell, to our own deeper capacities, our own deeper knowings of self, and also our interactions with those that are showing up with this as their superpower to begin with. Yeah. So anyway, I hope that was helpful today, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Um, Heather, just as a side note, I don't know if you saw it, and I'll say this to everybody too, but on the 22nd of November, there's an AM call and a PM call. I'm going to have a conversation with professionals who are working with kids on the spectrum. And this conversation is really, it's more of a discussion, a Q&A kind of thing. But I really I've heard so many people, since I did Alex's show, since the telepathy tapes came out, there's just so many, especially professionals, that are kind of locked into a particular way that they can connect and communicate with the kids or interact with the kids simply because they fall within the jurisdiction of that particular profession. I had an amazing conversation with Stephen Ross yesterday, the head of the World Research Foundation, and he's offered maybe a possible alternative to what professionals all over the place have been experiencing. So I'd like to have that conversation with everybody on the 22nd. And this particular one is going to be for people who have some kind of degree in, a therapy or teaching degree or psychology, psychiatry, MD, whatever. There will be other conversations for people who are professionals in other areas that are supporting, like through yoga or through art, through different kinds of trainings like that. But if you do have, that kind of professional degree and would like to kind of move into a different way of interacting with the kids in the setting that you're in, then come find me on the 22nd. Okay. And I'll send out another email sometime this month before then, so you'll be able to register for that. All right. Lots of love, everybody. I will see you next time. Bye.